We already know, right now, at least I know, you're about to know, that today's guest admires Mother Teresa. That's right. You know about her. Look her up after the show. You can Google her. The number one place on their travel list that they've not been to is Tahiti. I could tell you all the reasons, but you can't handle it right now. And listen, we always ask our guests, look, if you could wave your magic wand and pick up any skill instantly, what would your instant skill be? I have to confess that he made two choices before the interview because we did talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to bring both of them up just because I'm just bad like that. He said, I'm really torn. I either want to be a really skilled surgeon. That's cool, right? Or to become a really good singer. He says, I always, I would join the choir in high school or whatever, and I could be part of the voices, but I could never do the solo voice thing. And I always wanted to do that. So now you know a little bit about our guest. Let's get right to it. Before we formally introduce you, can you tell us, look, where were you born and what was it like to be you as a kid?
Wow. I was born in Michigan. I tell everybody I was born in exile. My grandfather and my father's side of the family was from North Carolina. And after World War II, my grandfather moved to Michigan to get work with General Motors. And my dad and aunt, the two children, by the time they finished high school, my grandparents decided to move back to the South. But my father said, look, I can either make 25 cents an hour in a textile mill in North Carolina or $1.35 an hour on the assembly line in Michigan. He chose the assembly line.
Well, and that tells you it was a little while ago, too, because they don't make that anymore. And was that Detroit? Where are we talking about?
Actually, Flint, Michigan. And I grew up in a little suburb of Flint called Durand.
All right. So wait. So were you the kind of kid that got into things? Were you the kind of kid that had a strict set of parents? What was going on?
Oh no, actually, my childhood was pretty chaotic. My parents divorced when I was 5 or 6, and I'm the oldest. When you put us all together, 8. Okay, that includes siblings, stepbrothers, half brother, half sister. So I had let's just say a tough childhood growing up. I had to become the adult in the room very early in life, taking care of my younger siblings.
Well, no, wait. You were the older child. Did you go with your mom or your dad? Did you split time with them? What was happening?
Yeah, no. Went with my dad. And
wait, all 8 kids went with the dad?
No. There were just 4 of us at the time. Okay. But, through marriages and, there ended up being 8 of us, but I was the oldest of 4 in the original nuclear family.
Right, that's so interesting. And when we have first children on the program, they turn out often to be in leadership positions that are either thrust on them or it just develops naturally. That was kind of you, right?
Oh yeah, I had to.
No choice. All right. So let's skip ahead a little bit because one of the things we like to do on Stories of the Upstate is capture little moments across somebody's life. It helps us to get to know our guest a little bit. Tell us something about you as a teenager that might surprise the people that know you today, because I'm just going to say before we introduce you, which is going to happen in a minute here, I know some things about you, but I don't know about you as a teenager. What about that guy?
Oh, wow. As a teenager, I was always Mr. Popular in school, student body president, played a few sports. And I did that to escape my home life. Because as a teenager, I ran away from home 2 or 3 times. And finally, the third time I was 16, and it stuck. And I've been on my own pretty much with the help of my grandfather and some other kind folks throughout my life. I've been on my own since I was 16.
All right, now wait, you said a couple of interesting things there, because the first thing you said is I was pretty popular and I engaged in a lot of social activity as a teenager, and then you dropped the bomb. At 16, you went on your own, and that's big. How did that affect your high school career?
Well, I moved to North Carolina with my grandfather. It's funny, my sophomore year when I left Michigan, I probably got 300 or 400 letters from classmates. Pressley, come back. We missed you. But I knew that I just needed to step out on my own because it was a painful life growing up. I had the Cinderella-esque stepmother, and the only thing I regret about leaving home is I left my younger brother and sisters in that situation.
Very interesting. So you just heard him slip up and say his name, so we're going to get right to it. Tell us your name and your current role in Upstate South Carolina today. Let's find out about you.
Yes, my name is Pressley Stutts, and I am the CEO of TravelSmiles.org. We're a venture philanthropy company that is designed to help nonprofits with their fundraising. Part of my past life has been in the fundraising world, and I've always thought that there should be a different way of helping these nonprofits raise their funds. Typically, they show up with their hat in their hand, and they beg for money, and I used to do it. I didn't like to, and the people I was asking for money usually had what I call donor fatigue, and they would just write me a check to get me out of their office.
All right, no, wait a minute. I'm also going to break in and say that I know that you had some other roles in your life too. I wonder if you would like to touch on that for a minute, one in particular, and I'm going to let you do it because I don't presume that you want to share that, but you might.
Sure. Yeah, I spent 30 years in the Navy. I was a Navy chaplain, and 22 of those 30 years I was attached to the Marine Corps. And Uncle Sam's misfit children, I call them. And wonderful career. It took me many, many places around the world. I met a lot of very interesting people.
No, wait, you get to see a lot of things too. And I mean, I'm sure that they're not all exotic, exciting, wonderful, especially your chaplain. You're going to have some moments, right?
Oh, many, many moments. Young men and young women would come into my office and they would bare their souls to me with some of the deepest, darkest secrets that anybody could have. But then part of being a chaplain is you have to be there. And unfortunately, I officiated way too many funerals of young men and women who gave their life for this country, as well as a number of vets who had passed on.
Well, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for your service, and that particular service specifically, I also wanted people to understand, because you do come off as sort of this fun guy that it probably leans to the popularity of when you were in high school, but you do have this serious side, and you've seen a lot of things, and I wanted to kind of get that in before we go back a little bit and talk about Travel Smiles a little bit. And here's what I really want to know about that. Your wife calls you a serial entrepreneur. You just introduced a couple of words that don't really go with entrepreneurship generally when you talk about doing something that helps others all the time, although I think the best entrepreneurs are engaged in helping other people accomplish things. What do we not know about the kind of work that you're doing, specifically Travel Smiles? In other words, take us backstage for a minute.
Well, again, Travel Smiles was born out of my frustration with the way I see current fundraising done for nonprofits. And actually, it was, and we're a new company. We're just launching. But last April, I'd been out working in the yard, and I came in and got something to drink and plopped myself down on the couch for my afternoon siesta on Saturday. And the golf tournament was on, and somewhere in the twilight of my sleep, the doorbell rings and startles me. And I go to the door, and there's a little Girl Scout there. She's in her uniform, and she's got her pitch down perfect. And she sells me 4 or 5 boxes of cookies. And as she's leaving, her mother, who stood down on the sidewalk, who was following the little girl, the mother said to me, "Sir, thank you so much for buying these cookies. These girls work hard for 4 to 6 weeks, but it provides all of their operations for the rest of the year." And when that mother said that to me, a light bulb went off over my head. And I said, that's it. Lloyd, you've heard the saying, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. So what we've done with Travel Smiles is we've created a platform whereby nonprofits, we teach them how to fish, and we provide for them a current and constant stream of revenue so that they're not subject to the whims of somebody giving or the economy.
That's where I thought you were going to say, so that they're not floundering, which goes with the fish, of course. Listen, we believe that education is the basic building block of a person's character, and we don't like to talk about, tell us about how many degrees you got, because oftentimes people end up doing things that are not related to the degree that they went to college for. Here's where we like to connect. You have a favorite teacher ever? If so, why were they your favorite?
Oh, yes. In 7th and 8th grade in junior high, her name was Mrs. Payne. We called her Mrs. Payne in the Neck. And I liked her for a couple reasons. One, her birthday was the same birthday as mine, so we had that in common. But she was a taskmaster, and she taught us the rules of the English language. And anytime we would say the word ain't, she would say ain't a word.
I got that too, by the way, and that is incorrect. It is now a word.
It is. It's a colloquialism, correct? But Mrs. Payne forced us to focus, forced us to master the English language, and she was a taskmaster. But we saw her love come through, and so she was probably. I had a number of favorite teachers, but she was probably one of the favorites.
All right, so I'm going to shift gears on you. We love doing that on this program. Your favorite comedian ever? I already said you're a fun guy, so a lot of pressure on you right now.
Yeah, you know what? I loved Don Rickles. He could roast anybody in a skinny minute, and just the way he did it, the humor. And Don had a way of doing that would make you open your mouth and go at the same time and then laugh. Oh yeah, and of all the comedians I've ever watched or listened to, I found myself with big belly laughs watching Don Rickles.
All right, so let's get back to the Upstate for a minute and say this way. Look, we know that you were up in Michigan. We know that you had that upbringing and you popped out on your own at 16 and went roving doing your thing. You did end up in North Carolina, but this is a different question. How'd you end up in the Upstate of South Carolina?
Well, my wife's from here, okay? And so I had an opportunity after I retired to come back here, fell in love with Greenville, and we're here and don't plan on going anywhere.
All right, I like that answer. Our personal interest round is a little bit different too. It goes like this. What was the first television show, the first one, that captured your attention as a child?
Back in the 60s, it was The Rifleman. It was the Western. It was a father teaching a son different lessons in life. There was always a crisis. There was always something to fix. And, it got fixed in 30 minutes. That was kind of cool.
So it's just like life, but with rifles.
Exactly.
Well, exactly right. All right, what is a fun fact about you that people don't know, but they should? I mean, look, let's say a nonprofit ends up in a meeting with you. You're sitting across a board table from them or something, or you guys are out to lunch or dinner or whatever. What do they not know about you that is fun that they should know?
Wow. What's fun? Oh, man.
No, wait. No, people hate talking about this because they're like, I don't want to, but that's what this show is about. So, Pressley, I know you're a fun guy. We are talking with Pressley Stutts. He is with travelsmiles.org, which we're going to get into a little bit later. But what's a fun fact about you that people don't know, but they should know?
I'm at a loss here, Lloyd. I really am. A fun fact. I love people. I thrive on people. A lot of people like to go home and decompress and recharge their batteries. The way I recharge my batteries is I go out and I hang out with people.
You get your energy from people?
Absolutely. I'm your typical type A guy.
All right, let's do this. I know you got an answer for this. Favorite breakfast cereal for you is what?
Oatmeal.
You're oatmeal guy. Of course you are. If tomorrow you're suddenly found not doing what you're doing today for a living, it's all washed away. And this is our limitless question. You don't need to get a degree to do what I'm going to ask you about. You don't need to get somebody's special permission. You just head out the door tomorrow morning. This is our limitless question. What do you think you'd like to attempt tomorrow if it's all gone?
I would become a tour guide. I think travel is so interesting. I think it's educational. I think every kid in high school, there should be a requirement your last year of school that you go travel to some part of the world, experience a different culture, get to learn something from people. And I'm a voracious learner. I never want to quit learning. So I'd be a tour guide.
All right, and I'm going to say that that's a fun fact about you that people don't know, but they should. So, see, I lined right up on you there. Okay, so this one might be tougher for you because we talked about music a little bit, and you were like, it's not really my thing. You have a favorite artist, music, singer, band. What happens?
Yeah, maybe I'm stuck in the 60s, but I love anything with good, tight harmonies, folk music. Peter, Paul, and Mary come to mind, okay? I just love something with good harmony.
In your group of friends today, okay, we're not talking about when you're being a serial entrepreneur or one of the other things that you're involved in, and I know you are involved in some things. You're the person in your group of friends that's famous for blank. What is blank?
Wow. I guess because I was the oldest child and I had to become a leader early on, everybody looks to me to be the leader. And, there comes a lot of responsibility with being a leader, but I enjoy the role. I'm more of a visionary. I don't like to get down into the nitty-gritty details of things, but I like to cast the vision, and I like to encourage, inspire other people to do other things.
All right, you knew I was going to put you under this kind of pressure, and on our program, one of the things that we like to do is really get at the core of things. You spent 30 years as a chaplain. You heard people's confessions. You heard what is heaviest on the human heart. What is the secret of life?
Real simple. Love your neighbors, you love yourself. Respect people, period.
I'll take that as a good answer. How can somebody listening to this program get involved with you directly? You got this Travel Smiles thing going on. Usually this is where people drop their website or whatever. You got something like that for us?
Yeah, we do. www.travelsmiles.org, and you can contact me through there.
Very excellent. We know that time travel isn't possible, but we do know also that this interview is being recorded. If you could say something right now to your children and have them hear it in the future, and you can, what do you think you'd like to share with them?
I believe that the human heart has this innate instinct to know to do what's right. And I would just tell my boys, do what's right.
So kind of like do what you know in your heart is right, not what you're thinking sometimes.
Well, yeah. I mean, we the old saying, I know in my knower, you just do what's right. Because if you do what's right, you'll never have any regrets.
Boy, that's tough. I understand that, and I still have some regrets. So you get a certain stage in your life. I don't know if you did this when you were younger. I certainly did, where I was like, you know what, I'm never going to live with regrets. And now I'm like,
Oh yeah, look, I'm 60 years old. Okay, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and I've made plenty of my share of mistakes, and I haven't always done what I knew to be right. And that's, if you want to talk about regrets, those are the regrets that I had.
So this is not the George W. Bush interview where he says, I never made any mistakes.
Absolutely not.
All right. So listen, give us an idea of an attraction for you inside upstate South Carolina that you go, man, that really does it for me. I'm going to put this in perspective. So we, all the time, we see this. We're in published reports or on CNN or in the New York Times or whatever it is, that they're now actively highlighting something that's happening here in upstate South Carolina or an attraction here. But I'm not really interested in that. Okay, the heart of this question strikes at somebody comes to visit you from one of these other places that you've been in your life. Where do you take them?
You know, I love to go to the northern end of the county, and there's a road up there that I love to drive because it's hairpin curves, 276 all the way up to Caesar's Head. And you pull into the Caesar's Head State Park and you walk a couple hundred feet, and all of a sudden you've got this majestic vista of a forest, Table Rock in the distance, hawks flying in the air. There are days when I'll just drive up there on a spring or a summer or fall afternoon, and I'll just drive up there by myself, and it's a good place to think. That's where I'd take them.
Now, we talked about travel a good bit because you're doing Travel Smiles and some other things related to how much you love travel and respect that as a learning tool, if you will. You can be here in the upstate, and there's so much nature around us. People oftentimes will be in their city, whatever that is, and not be thinking about that. Would you say that's probably pretty reflective?
Oh yeah, there are a number of hidden gems here in the upstate.
Absolutely. All right. So now I'm going to do something completely different, and this is in your travel window. Okay. When you go on vacation outside the upstate, do not hold back because there's so much pressure on you now with travelsmiles.org and all that. Here you are, this travel guy. You love travel. Where's the spot outside the upstate for you?
I've been there a couple of times. I'd go back in a skinny minute, the Grand Canyon. Again, just the majesty to see how that was created and the power of the water that carved all those rocks over the millennial.
Yeah, nature's wicked, right? A few years ago, my wife and I took a small plane. I did not know this was going to happen. So my birthday, and my wife looks at me and she goes, "You love this, right?" And I told her, "I am going to kill you," because we were in one of these little 19-seat prop jobs. We flew into the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and if you don't know me very well, I am a coward. So this plane is bouncing around like we're about to drop out of the sky, but we did manage to have a great time. We rode these four-wheel vehicles across the floor of the Grand Canyon. That is a vacation that appeals to you, right?
Oh yeah. I've been not in an airplane, but in a helicopter several times down into the Grand Canyon and just descending. It's majestic. I'm a thrill seeker. Yeah. In junior high, I took a French class, and one of the phrases I learned was "Le danger est mon métier." Danger is my business.
Oh my gosh. Danger is my business on Stories of the Upstate with Pressley Stutts, who is with travelsmiles.org. And I'm going to turn serious on you again. Several times I've mentioned this, but 30 years as a chaplain, that you have to have seen some serious things. And now you've been in the upstate for a while, and I know you've seen things here. Is there something important here inside the upstate of South Carolina that you think, look, this doesn't get the attention it deserves? If so, for you, what is that?
Yeah, my heart really goes out to kids because of the rough upbringing that I had. And right next door to you, perhaps, down the street, there are kids who are in less than ideal circumstances where there may be physical abuse, emotional abuse. And my heart really goes out to those kids that are, and they're in our public schools every day, and they have stories that would make the skin on the back of your neck just stand up. And so I have a heart for kids and helping them.
Excellent answer. Pressley, just to be able to sit with you and get involved in the middle of your busy schedule for you to pop by and see us with the things that I know that you have going on, I want to thank you for being a guest on Stories of the Upstate.
Hey, Lloyd, thank you. I really appreciate what you do. Your podcasts are always very interesting, very entertaining, and it's just an honor for me to be here with you today.
Of course, we're not quite done with you yet. Coming up next is probably the single most important thing, at least we think, about the program. Look, this feature that we're about to do with you, Pressley, is half the reason that we do Stories of the Upstate. We made up this thing so that we could get to what's coming next. It's called Words of Wisdom, and so I want you to be thinking right now, before we take a break, about the wisest words you've ever heard, because that's next. We call this feature on Stories of the Upstate Words of Wisdom, and Pressley, here's why we do that. It's because that's exactly what they are. What we're looking for is advice, perhaps the wisest words you've ever heard. Would you please share with us your words of wisdom, and if you want, tell us who gave you these words or where you got them from.
Wow. My dad told me one time, he said, son, if you don't know where you're going, you're probably going to end up somewhere else. And so those are words of wisdom that really help me define or help me find my direction and way in life. But then I read a quote from Henry Ford. And Henry said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And I take that attitude. We have people in life that say, well, the glass is either half full or half empty. I choose to believe that it's always refillable.